Ambassador S. Muni into this. He was also a former Indian diplomat. How do you see? Is it going to be very difficult when it comes to reforming the UNSC, seeing the challenges that we already have? Because no matter how long we've been speaking about it, expansion of the UNSC has been only just lip service from other countries.
Look, I have served very briefly as a special envoy, lobbying for my UNSC reforms and India's permanent seat there. Uh, on second thoughts, I tell you the whole strategy with which we started and are still pursuing of incremental change of the UNSC will not work. We were forced to, abandon the veto rights. They said the new entrants would not get the veto rights. Germany accepted that. Japan accepted that largely because of the Western influence. And then we were also forced to accept it. We accepted that. It's not going to work. I think now there should be a new and fresh movement, almost at the global level, to revisit the UN Charter. Everything else there has got to be looked into. There are certain institutions which have worked very well. UNESCO has worked fairly well. Economic Food Organization has worked very well. But you have to look at the charter, not only because India and Germany and Japan and Brazil are not admitted or Africa is not admitted, but because the UNSC has utterly failed to resolve any of the world conflicts. Please name one world conflict which was resolved by UNSC. Secondly, some of the P5 countries have taken unilateral actions whenever and wherever they wanted. And this is exactly what they want to do even now. Therefore, it is the time to challenge the whole basic structure of the United Nations and revisit the Charter and see if some changes can be brought about. We can continue. We have been struggling for more than 25, 30 years for this UNSC reform. We have not been able to succeed anywhere. Whatever the lip services, rhetorical, diplomatic lies which have been perpetrated. Therefore, I think there is need for us to change the basic strategy and approach towards this question.
All right. Also, one significant aspect of this is that when the diplomats came in, India has been showcasing its digital infrastructure, digitization, the kind of success that we've had. We've been showcasing diplomats how the UPI is used. It was quite interesting for a lot of them, even those coming in from the developed world. When it comes to digitization, one keen aspect has been looked into is about cryptocurrencies and its aspects as such. In the future, Ambassador Muni, how do you see the digital aspect of it? We are talking about physical infrastructures and corridors, but a digital infrastructure, how do you see that being leveraged by India? Because India has had some technology that it can share with the world, and this technology is applicable both for the developed as well as the global south.
No, I think we have worked very well by introducing this subject, this theme, and we have also brought it up in the joint statement. But I think there is some compromise. There are very powerful vested interests on cryptocurrency. And on cryptocurrency, therefore, we have taken a form, don't ban it, regulate it. I think this is a currency which should be banned. I mean, this is, of course, it has become very functional, and there are many people who are happy with it. So there are vested, as I said, vested interest, and there is a competition. But my personal opinion is this is not a currency. This is a currency which can be manipulated very easily and very highly at the cost of those people who are not technology savvy in one way or the other. So far as cryptocurrency, this is my attitude would be. Otherwise, in any international gathering and organization, all nations push their own interest. And I think it is absolutely legitimate on the part of India to push our advantages or our gains and achievements in terms of digital public infrastructure. And we have done it very well, showcased it during G20. I think it needs to be showcased at all other places, various places, wherever we get a chance. And I hope people are appreciating, because this is making life far more convenient and smooth. And therefore, I am all for it, that we must push it as far as possible.
Well, also just visuals coming in about Rishi Sunak, in fact, going ahead and making that visit before he went to Rajghat. He did visit the Akshardham temple, and these are in fact pictures from that particular visit. Rishi Sunak, along with his wife, they were both at the Akshardham temple. They met with the priests at the temple and took blessings, and also performed religious rituals at the temple before he headed towards Rajghat, and after that to the Bharat Mandapam for the rest of the third session. So here we have pictures coming in from Akshardham temple, especially with regard to Rishi Sunak and his wife visiting the temple. Well, it was a rainy day, of course, and this picture tells about the UK Prime Minister going ahead and having an umbrella and keeping his wife also within its ambit so that they are not wet in the rain. And here we see them at the temple premises, and at the same time inside the Sanctum Sanctorum going ahead and giving their offerings at the temple as well. Well, coming back, we have Ambassador Manju Seth. Manju Seth, we were talking about digital infrastructure, how much of India has been trying to push forward. You know, after NAM or the non-alignment movement, is it now that India is now investing something big when it comes to international organizations like the G20, where it's begun to invest in it? After NAM, do you think that India's contributions when it comes to G20 is something that stands out?
Absolutely, it has contributed substantively by making the agenda, very inclusive, and making the global South part of this whole agenda. And the Voice of the Global South Summit was a very good initiative to get to know their viewpoint. And of course, getting the AU into the G20 is again a very good and positive step. And now that we have contributed to, I mean, this it's almost concluded, the G20, but whatever has been the substantive outcomes, the substantive gains that we have made, the world has made really, India has made, but it's a global forum, and G20 will, I think, be remembered for India's agenda setting, for India's contribution to it, and making it much more relevant. I think G20, people have been even talking about G20 being an alternative to the UN. You spoke of the UN reforms shortly, a little while back. But, the reforms, as Professor Munni also said, cannot be done step by step. And that's why they have failed. It has to be a one strike, that has to be given. But for that, the P5 have to be on board. And that will happen only when other countries and other people are able to challenge them, be in a position to challenge them. Coming back to G20, yes, it is a major contribution, but yes, NAM had a separate, I think, a separate agenda, a separate.
It was reflective of its times, in fact.
Reflective of its times, and G20 is now reflective of its time now, with India having a voice. India reaching a certain level of development and a certain level of heft in international matters, and that I think will be that will help to contribute and make it more implementable and to make it more effective. And I think for future G20, they've set a kind of agenda or a kind of template for future G20 summit meetings, to make them more meaningful and more reflective of current realities.